Obviously, a big announcement last week with the accelerated timeline to get into the Big 12 in 2023. I feel like it's the completion of a really special year for the Bearcats. Everything that we went through this year, all the things that we were able to accomplish, it made a lot of sense for us to move into the Big 12 in 2023, and just thankful that we were able to get that done. It's going to move our program forward, and it's really, really important. I want to thank Dr. Pinto, and I want to thank Lori Ross, our general counsel, who helped negotiate this deal. They worked really hard to get this done, and appreciate their work to do that. They understood the importance of it. I also want to thank Mike Oresco, Commissioner Oresco, at the American Conference. He negotiated well throughout this and amicably, and it was good the way that we were able to get this done, and the way that he's treated the Bearcats throughout his time, even after the announcement that we were going to join the Big 12. And obviously, I want to thank Commissioner Bowlesby at the Big 12. They've been remarkable with the way that they've accepted the new schools into their conference. They've been able to graciously include us in conference-based discussions and meetings, and that's been really, really important in this transition time. So I want to thank him as well. But open it up to any questions that you might have about this. Yes, yes. When the new television rights contract is negotiated and completed in 25, we'll be a full member at that time.
And that includes non-TV revenue, like conference revenue as well?
Yes, a complete member. Yep.
Do you know the rate yet that you'll be prorated the first couple of years? Is that...
We have a really good sense of what that will be. I won't talk specific numbers right now, but it'll be significant, more than 2 times what we were making in the American Conference in terms of television media rights.
What are your projections on expense difference going into the Big 12?
We've had a lot of discussions about that, obviously, over the last several months, and we know travel-wise there'll be some additional expenses. We know that we're going to have to step up in certain areas, and so we're starting to build that all out in a 3, 5, 7 year time frame in terms of how we budget this. But we expect to be able to compete day one. That's what we keep talking about, the day one campaign that we launched, and so that means that we're going to have to step up our fundraising. It means that we're going to have to really make sure that we're on par in terms of our facilities, the indoor and the performance center that we're building, and other facilities. And it also makes our look at what our coaches, in terms of what our coaches' salaries are, in terms of what we're offering our student athletes. We've got to make sure our student athlete experience is on par with Power 5.
How far down the road is the Big 12 from what you guys have learned in terms of conference divisions and 8 games, 9 games, any of that stuff? How close are they? Do you think are to making those decisions?
I think they're pretty close. We've got a couple decisions left to be made there, but obviously we've been having these discussions with the possibility that we might be in the conference in 2023. So we're getting there.
Has there been any discussions of adding another program like a women's softball or a hockey going into the Big 12, knowing that those are 2 predominantly programs in the Big 12?
When we spoke to the Big 12 initially, back in August, we asked that question: was there a need to add a program in order to fit into the Big 12? And there was not. So it's not something that we have to do or mandated by the Big 12 in any way. But certainly, as we go forward and look at what makes sense in that conference, we'll explore different possibilities down the line. So I wouldn't say yes or no at this point.
Hey, John, I remember that Friday when the news came out and the Murray State game that you guys were joining the Big 12, just a buzz around campus and the football game. Did you feel a similar buzz and excitement just in this building or around campus the last 3-4 days since the announcement that was going to be made that y'all are going into 2023?
I had a chance. I was actually out of town, which this is how it always happens, right? You go out of town and something breaks. So you guys all know that. But I was out of town, and but I knew it was coming. I knew it was close, and so had a chance to text our coaches and our administrators, and I certainly felt it from the donors that were contacting me and the coaches' response to that news. They all wanted that to happen, and they wanted to be able to get out there publicly to their recruits and just let people know that we'll be in the Big 12 in 2023. We're ready to go. So it certainly did have that vibe that it was just, again, kind of a completion to a really special year, and just the momentum that we have is special right now.
You've been here for a couple of years now, but could you sense when you talk to people, because I mean, UC was close 7-8 years ago to getting into the Big 12. Do you sense how maybe relief or excitement there is, just people that have been here for a long time?
I do, and I did when we obviously made that announcement in September. And I again, I kind of point back to those that have invested for so long. A lot of our donors that have really put in so much time, energy, finances, resources to make this happen. They had a belief. Our leadership, Dr. Pinto and presidents before him, coaches that have been here for a while, they all really understand how big of a deal this is. It's just been something that's been hanging over our heads a little bit. We've been competing above our resources for a long time. Now we have a chance to do everything that we need to do and not be limited in any way by conference affiliation.
I just want to ask about expenses and how that might change the budget. Do you have any sense yet of how subsidies might be impacted moving forward from the university? I guess the overall bottom line of the athletic department budget.
Those, again, conversations that we've been having, will continue to have. A big piece to that puzzle will be what the media rights deal will look like in 25 going forward. But there's certainly growth that needs to take place. We've talked a little bit about that. We see areas we need to make sure our student athlete experience is enhanced, and coaching salaries and those things that I talked about. We've got to do that. So we've got to grow. But at the same time, we also recognize that the subsidy has been significant, and so we've got to give back too. So there's a balance there to be had, and we'll find that balance as we go forward.
John, how ready is the school, the athletic department, for the incredible increase in profile you're going to have nationally?
I think we're ready. I think this year gave us a sense of what that's going to be. When you talk about bringing College Game Day here and being in front of 16 million people at the Cotton Bowl, in terms of what the TV rating was there. So I think we got a sense of it. We drove the brand this year in a really special way. And then as we go into the Big 12, it'll just be enhanced. And so we're ready.
If I may take a left turn, NIL is obviously a big deal right now, with student athletes being able to capitalize off of that. It seems to be like a Wild West right now. There's no real rules or regulations. How do you feel where that stands right now? And also, how do you feel where Cincinnati stands as far as being a major player in the NIL space?
Yeah, Keith, I've thought for a while that student athletes should have the opportunity to profit off of their name, their image, and their likeness. They bring a lot to our university. We've seen it on the Olympic side of things. The Olympic model works, where you have national brands that attach themselves to amateur Olympic athletes, and they're able to use their name, image, and likeness to profit. So there is a path that works, and I think we saw that this year for us. We had over 200 deals, and combined over $1 million worth of those deals. And we had great partnerships with local businesses. We had one of the best players on one of the best teams in Desmond Ritter, and he was able to take advantage of it, and deservingly so. You look at the Skyline Chili thing that we did with our offensive line. That's exactly the way this is supposed to work, which is a local business that says, hey, there's value here, attaching themselves to our offensive linemen, one offensive lineman specifically kind of bringing the others along with them. They've got to take the time to go do the commercial and really learn a little bit of business along the way, and put in the time and effort to get it done. And then it kind of works for everybody. That's how it's supposed to work. But like you said, there's things going on right now that don't feel like that. It feels like something else. It feels like pay for play. And so we've got to be aware of that. We're not going to back down to anybody in terms of how we approach being as competitive as possible, but we're going to do it within our values. And that's what I talk to our coaches about. And so that's really where I stand right now. We got to educate student athletes. We have to educate, because that's what we do. And if we get away from that, then we got problems. I think it's a disservice to just give money to student athletes and not expect anything of them in return. That's not the way the real world works. And so part of it is NIL education, financial literacy, making sure as they get money, they know what to do with it. And then making sure that they understand connecting to the community and giving back too. So that's what we're looking to do.
I guess it's appropriate to bring this up, John. You guys just announced for the first time ever you've sold out all 23,500 seats at Nippert for the first time today. Big news. But I guess looking forward, how much thought is there to expanding Nippert?
You know, demand is good when it comes to ticket sales. And so we have demand right now. We're going to have demand for a while. So this is the first time that we've ever sold out season tickets in Nippert that we can remember. So let's ride the demand wave for a while and fill Nippert up, make it a really special venue like it is, and just increase it and just make it a really, really tough place for opposing teams to come in and play. But certainly down the line, I mean, we've got to explore what an expansion of Nippert would look like if the demand continues to be there. I believe it will. And so we'll look at that at the appropriate time. So there are discussions.
How much of that goes into things are shrinking in the live attendance game, and that more stadiums are being built kind of in the mold of Nippert as opposed to 100,000 seat stadiums? Would potentially it be a focus on more premium seating, or not just throwing up whatever general admission you can get?
You're thinking about it the right way, which is, people have made mistakes by expanding stadiums and then not being able to fill those stadiums. Drives prices down across the board in terms of ticket pricing. So you don't want to do that. Premium seating is really, really important. I think you look at what the MLS is doing with their new stadiums, right? Smaller venues, lots of premium. And that's something that when we look at Nippert, we're going to look at very, very strongly. We also have to look at capacity for our students. We have 45,000 students on campus, and we don't have that anything close to that in terms of what we seat. So we've got to look at ways that we can increase student section as well.
John, I have a kind of, like, I don't know how much you want to talk about the buyout specifically, but the timeline for the buyout from the AAC, does that start September 2021?
Explain. So, yeah. So
like
over the next 4 years.
reports out there that there's 14-year
correct.
buyout. Does that 14 years start, the clock on that start September 2021 when the original announcement was made?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
How did whatever the final, the 18 million that's been reported, how did that impact like the day one campaign and kind of planning for the money that you knew was going to have to go towards that?
Well, we know we've kind of had a number out there. We said $100 million for the day one campaign. And that was, we thought through all scenarios, all expenses that we would have when we looked at that. And so that didn't change that bottom line, which is we're looking to raise $100 million in a 4-year period of time. So that's our goal with the Day One Ready campaign. And the biggest chunk of that obviously is the indoor facility and the performance center that we're looking to build. So we've done really well. We've had a lot of support. We've had a lot of support from the people that I talked about that have believed in us for years and years and continue to support us at a really high level. But we've got to go find more support. And part of that is increasing our annual fund, which is our masses. We got to get more people donating. We're looking at the number of donors, and then we're looking at the average donation per donor as well as another metric that we've got to really increase. We think that's our growth area. We're one of the bigger schools going into the Big 12. I think UCF is slightly bigger in terms of number of living alumni, but we're right there second. So we see a growth area just in terms of the masses and giving to the Day One campaign. So encourage everybody to go online to gobearcats.com/day1 and donate.
So the football team's obviously in one place, but for the rest of the athletic programs, how quickly is the expectation for success when joining the Big 12?
To be perfectly honest, I think it depends on the sport. We recognize that going into the Big 12, some of our sports are going to have a bigger runway than the others to be ready to compete and win championships, and that's just something that we'll deal with and look at. But for sure, we've got to go in football, men's and women's basketball, volleyball. We got to go in some of those sports and be ready day one. So that's really what we're focused on.
We've heard Coach Fick back here straight in the back. We've heard coaches like Coach Fick and other guys talk about just the impact on recruiting with the Big 12. We've already seen it with football. Just How big of a piece is that in recruiting? I mean, football is ranked third for the 2023 class. Have you seen that impact already, just knowing that you're going to the Big 12?
I think absolutely when you talk to our coaches, they're in on recruits that they've never been in on before. And certainly the level of recruit is rising across every one of our sports. Football-wise, Coach Fickle does an amazing job, and just the culture of football is what's driving that in my mind, and him specifically and who he is, and the 9 guys we put in the NFL. So I think we were going to be successful there no matter what, but certainly the talent is going to increase overall because of the Big 12 for sure.
I know Chad asked about like scheduling football wise. Have they told you it's definitely going to be 9, conference games or anything like that, or have they made any, explicit things about divisions and cross rivalries and things like that?
Discussions at this point, and there's some thought on where that's going to go, but I'm not ready to announce that yet.